Yo, what's up, everyone? Today, we're going to talk about Pokemon creepypastas. Now, I know, I've never talked about Pokemon before, never talked about Pokemon creepypastas before. There's a first time for everything. Now, all joking aside, just a couple of quick things before we get into this. I'll sprinkle in some footage from my last Pokemon video, which was about like a really in-depth, really cool video about this fossil manipulation glitch in like Pokemon Green and Japanese Red. So, like original Japanese releases of the Pokemon games. Super passionate about that stuff. There's a lot of math involved, spreadsheets. There's save file and public spreadsheets so you can play around with the glitch yourself. Super cool stuff. Check that out when you're done with this if you want. I'm going to use some footage from that video, but like a lot of it's like spreadsheet stuff. So in order so you can have like nice shiny lights on screen, I'll probably throw in some footage of my last like stream on Twitch. Not Pokemon related, but just so you have like something on the screen. And if you're interested in Pokemon creepypastas and you're wondering if why I didn't read such and such Pokemon creepypasta, well, there's a good chance that I've already have read it in my previous Pokemon creepypasta video. So I'll put the links to that stuff in the description so you can watch it when you're done or later or whatever you want to do. And one last quick thing, like I know I'm probably going to be poking fun at some of these stories and whatnot, but like in all seriousness, like no actual harassment or ill will towards the authors. Like I'm glad these stories exist. I genuinely think they're very entertaining. So if I'm like poking fun at it, I am not poking fun at the author. I think I would write something way worse than most of these. So with that out of the way let's start with the first one I got pulled up here. We're going to read, and I don't know if I've ever read this one before. So the previous video was ones that I have like definitely read before, but like not since I was like younger. But this one I think is completely new to me. So with that being said, we're going to read the first story here called Ashamed. It was one of those cloudy, rainy days. I was actually kind of glad for that. I hated the sun. Indoors is more of my thing. Anyways, before I accidentally get off subject, my dad was going to this indoor volleyball thing. I didn't really pay attention to the details, as I didn't care much for sports. I asked if I could stay in the car, and he said that was fine. As soon as he left, I locked the car, as I'm very paranoid. This sentence structure is already kind of wild to me. I love it. Then I tuned the radio to my favorite station and turned up the volume as loud as I could without bursting my eardrums. Now that I felt comfortable, I pulled out my Game Boy, which I had brought with me. Inside was fire red. Alright, I'm going to stop you right there. So this is a Game Boy Advance. I don't know why you're lying to me. It's not a Game Boy. Alright, I'm just being picky. I turned the volume on my Game Boy down as I wanted to listen to the radio while I played my game. Fair point. I do that all the time while playing games. Not with the radio, though. I'm not a psychopath. It had been a while since I last played the game. When my save file loaded, I found myself to be standing on Treasure Beach, that island below one island. I opened the menu and clicked on my Pokemon to find my normal party, except for a Dratini that I normally didn't use that had an experience share. I wondered why I was training that Dratini the last time I played. Shrugging it off, I exited the menu and flew back to the Pokemon Center at One Island. I went to the PC and reveled in the memories all my Pokemon I had caught there brought back to me. Okay. After looking through all the boxes, I got bored. I didn't really know what to do. Then, I got an idea. I was going to stop being lazy and level up my team so I could finally beat the Elite Four. I never really found any good training places in the game as to why I never beat the Elite Four. Okay, so it's not just me. This sentence structure really is crazy. But I had nothing else to do, so I thought I might as well train them up. I took the experience share away from Dratini and placed it in my box I had that was full of Dratinis. Wait, I'm sorry to keep interrupting. Why do you have so many Dratinis? Okay. This left me with my main party of 5 Pokemon. What? Dratini, and Dratini. Spark the Zapdos, Flame the Charizard, just Machoke, Pidgeotto, and Golduck. So they did no nicknames for the last 3. My last 3 didn't have nicknames. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm clearly just need to read the story. I thought of finding a different and better water Pokemon to replace my Golduck. I didn't really like his moveset, and just him in general. He wasn't really special to me. The main reason I had him was so I could have a Pokemon that knew Surf. Man, poor little guy. Completely understandable, though. After a bit of thinking, I decided I would just keep him because I didn't feel like training another Pokemon up to his level of 51. Then I realized I should probably find a 6th Pokemon since I had space for one more. I was eager to start training though, so I thought I would find another Pokemon later. I saved, left the Pokemon Center, and surfed back to Treasure Beach. I gave the experience share to Machoke, as he was currently the weakest. With Spark in the front of my party, I started training. The wild Pokemon were in the levels of around late 30s to early 40s. They were very easy to beat though, as most of the Pokemon I fought, Spark had a move that was super effective against them. While battling, I sang along loudly with the songs on the radio. After 30 minutes, Spark and Machoke had gone up quite a few levels. I saved the game and continued training. During one of those battles, I randomly started thinking about shiny Pokemon and how someone I knew on the internet had said to make sure you always had Pokeballs with you in case one showed up, and how pretty they looked. After the battle, I checked to see if I had any Pokeballs. I found to have a ton of Ultra Balls. No, okay, that's fine. I felt satisfied and continued training. Although I knew chances of me finding a shiny then and there were very slim. After beating a couple of Tangela, is that how you pronounce that? And trashing a Meowth, I ran into a male Persian. I practically screamed when I saw stars fly around it. I kept yelling, "Oh my god, holy crap!" And for a few minutes while staring at the screen in shock. I couldn't believe I actually found a shiny. This wasn't my first, though, as I had run into a shiny Snover. Is that a real Pokemon? I don't believe it. But accidentally fainted it, as I didn't know what a shiny was back then. And I had caught my own shiny Flygon. Okay, these Pokemon are not real. With some help from my little sister. This still was a very exciting moment for me, as it would have been to any of you. I loudly cursed profanity as I remembered my entire team was made up of high-level powerhouses. A sense of hopelessness washed over me as I searched through my Pokemon summaries to see if any of them had weak moves, which none of them possessed. A little hope sparked in me as I checked Golduck's summary, as he was the weakest in my party then. He had the move Rock Smash, which, despite being a fighting move that was super effective to normals, it didn't do much damage. He was my only hope, so I switched him out with Spark. The shiny Persian attacked with Payday, which didn't bring forth much damage to Golduck. After its turn was over, I chose for my Pokemon to use Rock Smash. Thankfully, it only took off about 1/4 of Persian's HP. After it attacked me again with another Payday, I decided one more Rock Smash would be good. I hit it with Rock Smash again. It was a critical hit. I screamed in rage as the shiny Persian fainted. I kept throwing profanity at the Golduck despite me knowing it wouldn't accomplish anything. After many moments, I finally cooled down. I decided I would just put it all behind me and forget it ever happened. I thought Spark was trained enough, so I switched it out with Pidgeotto and started leveling him up. Okay, is anything going to happen? After about 15 minutes of battling, I started to get cheery again. I sang along with some of the radio songs again to boost my spirits. After a while, I thought Pidgeotto had enough training. So I checked my Pokemon to see which one would train next. Okay. Spark had enough training. Flame was an already incredibly high level. Machoke had enough training since he held the experience share the whole time. Pidgeotto was done, so all that was left was Golduck. I still personally blamed him a little for making that shiny Persian faint, even though it was the game that decided when critical hits happened, but I switched him out for Pidgeot and started training him anyways. I didn't train him for long though, he kept missing too often, and when he actually did hit the Pokemon, it didn't do much damage. I kept training him, hoping this would eventually stop, but it didn't. Useless piece of crap, I muttered as he missed hitting a Meowth. Just then, though, something very odd happened. Ooh, I think we're finally getting into spooky, scary territory. The radio started to static. Oh yeah, it did. It would cut off, come back on, have static, go off again, and come back on. It kept doing that for a solid minute until it finally just shut off. I sat in my seat and whimpered like a dog. At the time, I had recently been watching one too many scary videos, and the fact it had become foggy outside didn't help either. I decided I would turn the volume up on my Game Boy to drive the silence away. The music emitted from the Game Boy sounded reassuring, and I tried to push what had just happened to the back of my mind. I walked a bit in the grass, and a wild Tangela appeared. During the battle, though, there was no music. Sound effects still played, though. My Golduck started acting strange, though. Whenever he missed, the animation would play for him, like when your Pokemon gets hit with Astonish. Golduck was still missing too often, so I switched him out with Flare. I thought it was Flame, and ended the battle quickly. Hold on, that was Flame, right? Okay, we're real-time fact-checking. What did you call your Charizard? Okay, you called him Flame the Charizard, not Flare. Alright, I see you. I see what's going on. Okay. The next Pokemon we ran into was a wild Persian. I half hoped it would turn out to be a shiny, but of course, it didn't. There was still no music, and the sound effects still played. When I selected for Golduck to attack, though, he refused to. The text would appear. Golduck is too ashamed to attack. I was getting very worried at this point. This definitely wasn't normal. I had no idea what to do. Once the text box went away, the Persian attacked with Payday. Golduck surprisingly went down in that one hit. I brought out Flare afterwards. Again, you called him Flame earlier, who beat the Persian in one turn. After the battle, I checked Golduck's summary. Everything was still the same, except for his nature, which had been changed. Instead of adamant, like he used to be, it was now ashamed. I was scared, to say the least, as I had never before encountered anything like this in one of my games before. I exited from the menu and walked in the grass, with Flare now in the front. That is really going to bother me that you, mid-story, changed the name of your Pokemon. I jumped when the radio suddenly came back on. After taking a moment to recover, I started to feel relieved. I then assumed that the whole mess must have to do with the Golduck. I decided I would just not use him for a while and hope things would eventually get back to normal. I flew back to the Pokemon Center on one island and healed my Pokemon, saved, and went to the PC. I decided I would use my Hypno as my 6th Pokemon. He was already a decent level. He only needed a little training to be in range with my other team Pokemon. I put Golduck in the PC and hoped when I was done training Hypno that he would be better. It didn't take long at all for Hypno to be in the same level range as the other Pokemon. Once I was done training him, I flew back to the Pokemon Center and saved. Then I got my Golduck out of the PC and fed him a couple of rare candies. I really wanted to go ahead and beat the Elite Four then, and I didn't feel like training another water Pokemon to replace Golduck. I just had to hope things were back to normal with him. I flew to the Indigo Plateau, bought a ton of items, and went to challenge the Elite Four. They were surprisingly easy, and I practically flew through them. But the battle against my rival was a different matter. It was a very tough fight, and eventually it went down to his Arcanine and my Golduck. They were both down to little HP. This was it. I just couldn't fail now. I ordered for my Golduck to use Surf. With his Quick Claw, he was able to go first. The Surf animation started to play, and my heart started frantically beating. But in the middle of the animation, the giant tidal wave stopped and disappeared. Golduck can't concentrate. Surf failed. What? I screamed at my Game Boy as Arcanine finished off Golduck with Bite. I started yelling at my Golduck for failing me on a critical moment yet again. It was partly my fault, as I should have known better than to use Golduck in the Elite Four when he had been messing up, but I didn't care. The game then returned me to the Pokemon Center that was right before the Elite Four. I thought about turning off the game, but my Pokemon had leveled up a lot during the battles, so I decided to save it instead. I then went immediately to the PC to put Golduck in it, but the game wouldn't let me. Golduck is sorry and won't mess up again. That message appeared every time I tried to put him in my PC. Screw this! I angrily muttered to myself as I clicked on Golduck and selected Release. Thankfully, to me at least, he left without a complaint. After a couple of minutes, I thought that might have been a rash decision. Before I knew it, I had turned the game off and back on, as I hadn't saved when I released my Golduck. I wanted him back again to give him one more chance. When the game finished loading up, though, Golduck still wasn't in my party. Regret quickly washed over me, and I felt awful for letting him go like that. I told myself that there was nothing I could have done to fix him, but I didn't fully believe it. Remorseful, I went to the PC to pick out another water Pokemon to replace my lost Golduck. I pretty quickly decided I would use my female Dragonair named Silver, as I greatly loved the Pokemon's design. I decided I would just forget the whole Golduck event ever happened, and that he never existed, just as I had with the shiny Persian, which I then cursed myself for remembering, so then you really didn't forget. I flew to Vermilion City and sailed out to one island. As soon as I landed on the island, I surfed down to Treasure Beach to train Silver. I didn't get a chance to train her, though. As I walked farther down the beach, I found a Golduck sitting in the middle of the grass, its back facing towards the screen. Getting a bit scared, I walked forward and talked to it. Golduck is dreaming. As soon as that text disappeared, a battle started. The background was different hues of purple, and it looked sort of misty. There was also no music, but sound effects played. A male shiny Persian appeared, but it seemed lighter than normal, kind of like a ghost. Golduck came out on the side of the screen where I should have been, but I couldn't control him. Golduck went first and used Rock Smash, which took out 1/4 of the Persian's HP. The opposing feline used Payday, which didn't do much damage to Golduck. The blue duck then used Rock Smash again, which was a critical hit that knocked out all of the shiny's HP. The blue duck? Wait, we're talking about... Which duck are we... Golduck. Oh my god, I had Psyduck in my head the whole time. That's what I was thinking of. And... I'm colorblind. But instead of fainting, the Persian remained. It used Payday and knocked a little of Golduck's HP down. Golduck would attack, but each time he missed. The shiny eventually had the blue duck's HP down to a sliver. Golduck used Surf, and it actually worked, but the animation cut off halfway across the screen, and the shiny Persian took no damage. Instead of using Payday to finish him off, like it had been using before, it attacked with Bite. Golduck fainted, and the battle ended. Once everything faded back to Treasure Beach, a text box appeared. Golduck jumped and woke up. Then an exclamation point popped up above Golduck's head, along with more lines of text. Golduck is shocked to see you. Then, Golduck's sprite started shivering with more text. Golduck is ashamed. Then another battle started. The background looked the same as a normal fight on Treasure Beach, green and blue. When Golduck appeared, his sprite looked different. There were streaks under his eyes where it looked like he had been crying. His eyes looked slightly red and swollen too. When my trainer came out, she stayed there instead of throwing out any Pokemon. The battle went on without me choosing anything. Golduck used Quick Claw. I wondered how he could use Quick Claw in battle like that, but before I could think too much about the matter, I found out. Golduck's sprite shivered, and his sprite changed. A Quick Claw appeared to be stabbed into his stomach, with crimson blood surrounding it. Honestly, I've been waiting for that. This is the most exciting this story has finally gotten to. His HP dropped to 0, and he fainted. The battle didn't end, though. A male shiny Persian appeared on the other side of the screen, except it was lighter than normal, just like in Golduck's dream. It let out its battle cry, and then faded from the screen. The battle ended. Once the game had faded back to Treasure Beach, Golduck was gone. I stared at the screen, my hands shaking a bit. I let out a slight scream as I heard knocking on the car's door. Relief washed over me as soon as I saw it was just my dad locked outside the car. I unlocked the car and he came in and told me the game took a little longer than he thought it was going to, and that he was sorry. I said it was all right, and I didn't mind. He started up the car and we left. When I looked at the radio's clock, it said it was 6:58. That is so hyper-specific. I had started playing my Game Boy around 3:40. All of what had happened on my Fire Red had only taken 3 hours. Trust me, it felt like it. I sighed and continued playing my game. Nothing else strange happened the rest of the night or the next day. Eventually, I beat the Elite Four with my team, but the victory felt hollow without Golduck. After I had beaten the Elite Four, I felt so awful for getting rid of Golduck that I decided I would catch a male Psyduck, raise it to be a Golduck, and teach it the same moves as my old one. It wouldn't be exactly the same as my old Pokemon, but it was the closest I could get to having him back, so I did just that. The Psyduck I had caught had been an adamant nature to boot, just like the old. Sometime during training, my new Golduck and I went back to Treasure Beach. Everything went normally until he hit level 51. Right after he leveled up, we ran to a wild male shiny Persian. I knew this was too much to just be a coincidence, but I didn't really care at that point. I still wanted that shiny Pokemon. I used Rock Smash on it, which took away 1/4 of its HP, and it attacked me with Payday. Golduck hit it again with Rock Smash. It was a critical hit. And that's the story. Okay, so let's discuss what we just read. On a scale from 1 to 10, how entertaining was this? Now, honestly, like I said, I've never read the story before, so I didn't know what I was getting into going in, and I didn't remember seeing this name like pop up or anything. Like, I don't know if this is like a newer story. I don't see on the Creepypasta wiki if it says where, like, when something was posted or written or anything, unfortunately. I really don't want to be, like, super mean or anything. But like, again, this is no shade towards the author. I don't think I could even write anything like this, to be perfectly frank. That was really boring, and I'm almost sorry that I picked that as the first story I was going to read tonight. But again, like, I don't want to, like, read all these before doing this, because then there's no, like, surprise for me, and everything's not going to be, like, genuine whatsoever. But like, if I would have known that's how it would have came out, I honestly don't know if I would have read that at all. Like, maybe even in my free time, I don't think I would have. That sounds so mean, and I'm really not trying to pick on the author. Like I said, genuinely, I couldn't write anything like that. But as far as the Pokemon creepypastas I have read and listened to and stuff, I genuinely think that might have been one of the worst ones. And again, I feel really bad for saying that. It's just that it didn't lean nearly hard enough, honestly, into, like, the creepypasta aspects. Like, that, like, most, like, literally 95% of that story was just talking about, like, playing Pokemon. Which, I mean, like, I guess fine enough, but that made for a really terribly boring story. It was like hearing somebody's made-up Let's Play. That was, unfortunately, not my jam. Now, I would love to give the author credit, even if I'm picking it apart a lot, and even if I'm saying some not so nice things. I genuinely want to give people credit. This isn't my material. However, like I said earlier, I can't find an author attached to this. The best thing that I could find is somebody in the comments said that it might be somebody called Golden Skies, but it's just like one random comment from 9 years ago saying that. What I will do is I'll put a link to the story in the description. I'm not just trying to like yoink somebody's story. It's, it's not mine. If this is somehow you and you got proof, I'll credit you. Or if it is you and you don't want me to credit you, well, there's that too. Now, one thing I want to bring up before we leave the story is one of my favorite comments that I saw on here. It said, and I quote, "Was it the real Fire Red game, or was it a ROM hack?" Now, what I want to know is if my man here is like for real, or if he's just kind of joking around. I don't know if he thinks it's like a real serious story on the Creepypasta wiki. However, moving on, I've got the next story we're going to read today. Okay, slight change of reading plans. I was reading this story that a couple of comments said it was actually kind of good, called Battery Ditto. I was reading it and I got like a little bit of the way into it, but there are some descriptions that were like genuinely not so comfortable. So I am not going to read that story. If you want to like look it up for yourself, you can go find it. It was called Battery Ditto. I don't know how it's going to end up. I'm not reading that on this channel. I'm totally good on that. It was getting just a little too much for me. So instead, we're going to move on to the next one for tonight. We're going to read this one called Loss of Purpose. And once again, with like all of these stories, I don't know if this is like a Creepypasta wiki problem or something else, but like there's like never an author attached to this. I don't know if that's because, maybe the authors don't want to be attached anymore or any other number of reasons. So again, like I'll link the story in the description. I don't want to like not give credit, but that's honestly like the best I can do. So recently, I have gotten back into the Pokemon series. I have played all the games except for Red or Blue. I was having a hard time getting a copy. None of the local video game stores had any new or used copies, and my parents wouldn't allow me to use eBay. But a couple weeks ago, my friend lent me what looked like an old Pokemon Red cartridge. It's always Pokemon Red. It's like never Pokemon Blue. He told me he didn't know if it was a working copy. It didn't look like it was, in parentheses. Its appearance made it look like it had been hammered multiple times. Okay. Apparently, his friend's dad had got it at a yard sale somewhere across the country. Doesn't explain why it looks like it got hammered. Okay. The owner wanted to get rid of it so badly, he only paid $0.25 for it. That didn't really matter to me, though. All I wanted to do was play the game. I inserted the cartridge into my Game Boy and turned it on. Thankfully, it flashed to the copyright information. It took me to the starting screen. The game had no save information. This didn't surprise me. The game was so beat up, I was just thankful it worked properly. I started a new game, and staying true to the plot, named my character Red. Soon I took my first steps into Pallet Town. Making my way over to Professor Oak's lab, I named my rival Gary to keep it simple. The whole green and blue controversy had always confused me. Wait, what controversy are you talking about? Oh, wait, hold on. We gotta look this up. Pokemon. Wait, if I just look up Pokemon, let's see, green and blue controversy. Okay, I've come to the conclusion that I have no idea what this guy's talking about. Anyways, to get back to the story. So he named his rival Gary and selected Charmander as my starter. I made my way over to Viridian Forest, all while appreciating the simplicity of the game. Soon, I was initiated into my first real Pokemon battle, easily winning with my Charmander. The screen returned to the normal view of the forest, but instead of letting me walk away, the bug catcher prompted me into a conversation. Ooh, let's go. Now I shall stand, forgotten, ... This statement confused me quite a bit. I tried to talk to the bug catcher again, but he wouldn't respond. Was this some part of the plot restricted to Pokemon Red? Shaking the idea off, I continued on. Every trainer I met said that after I battled them. Reaching the exit to Viridian Forest, I exited and re-entered to attempt to speak to the trainers once again. They did not respond, but something had changed about their position. They were all facing right. I proceeded to my first gym battle and won, with a bit of effort. After the battle, I expected the gym leader to say the same words as all the previous trainers, but instead, a box popped up that read these words: "Having served my sole purpose, I shall rest in silence." Then, surprisingly, he made his way out of the gym. I quickly walked out of the gym after him to try and see where he went. Like that is a thing that would be in a Game Boy game, like some sort of real-time positioning of where an NPC is. Anyways, he was nowhere in sight. I went back into the gym, and he wasn't back in there either. In fact, none of the preliminary trainers were in there. I rushed towards Viridian Forest, and upon entering, I noticed all the trainers within it were gone. I continued on with the game, receiving eerie responses after every battle. After I had finished an area, they all faced a direction that was usually due east. After I defeated the gym leaders, they gave me the same responses as the first one and walked out of the gym. The only time the response varied was when I faced Gary, who replied with, "I still have a purpose." Soon, I arrived within the vicinity of... Can you at home guess what town he's going to be near? You're not going to believe this. He arrived near the vicinity of Lavender Town. My God, I've been waiting for this. I entered the city and it started to play the eerie tune, giving the feeling of death creeping around every corner. But as I walked into town, what I saw was much more frightening. The whole of the city, uprooted and replaced with a horrifying sight. Around the ground there were multiple skulls and bones. In the center of the terror was a giant leafless tree. On some of the tree's branches there rested multiple skulls. The sight paired with the theme was overwhelming. I tried to turn down the volume, but the music only grew louder as I turned it down. Yeah, let's go. My Game Boy began to shake because of the intensity of the sound waves. I quickly turned it back up. Was this even possible? Short answer, no. Recovering from the intensity of the music, I observed the scenery closer. I focused on the tree and noticed that all the branches that had skulls were consecutive on the left side. I can barely make sense of that sentence, leaving a few on the right side empty. It was filling up, deeply disturbed by this thought. All I wanted to do was get away from the town. I tried to quickly walk across the town to the exit, but as I entered the field of skulls, Red's steps slowed down gradually, as did the town theme. As I began to reach the exit, his steps started to speed up again. What had I just seen? After I beat the trainers on Route 10, I exited and returned to see the routine turn of all the trainers. This time, they were facing south. Then I realized, oh yeah, they were all facing toward Lavender Town. Yeah, they were. Driven by pure curiosity, I continued on. Battling my way through the rest of the game, the trainers continued to disappear, repeating the same lines. Eventually, I reached the Elite Four. I beat the first four quickly and faced Gary. I defeated him, and this time, instead of saying what he usually said, these words flashed on the bottom of the screen. "We will all be waiting in silence." Look, I'd like to point out the obvious. For a bunch of people that keep talking about silence and not speaking, they have a lot to say. He turned and walked out of the room. Confused, I tried to move, but I couldn't. I sat watching, ... waiting. Suddenly, another figure emerged and stood in front of Red. The battle initiated. The trainer who had challenged Red to battle was ... Red? On the other side of the screen was his own sprite. The battle screen read, "You have challenged yourself to a battle." Man, I do that every morning when I wake up. Automatically, my Red sent out his level 73 Charizard. The opposing Red sent out a level 100 Charizard. Naturally, the level 73 Charizard was defeated. Next, Red sent out his level 68 Raichu. The opposing Red sent out a level 100 Raichu. The other Red had exactly the same team as my Red, except more powerful. He wiped out my Red's team. So it's like a shadow battle in like Persona 2 or 4 or whatever. The screen returned to the view of the two Reds standing face to face. Words appeared on the bottom of the screen. ... Red was talking. "Your purpose has been served." Okay, then he's telling you to, log off the game before you exist alone. Forever. At once, my Red turned and walked out of the room. The screen turned black. It returned, fading into the image of the modified Lavender Town. But that wasn't what was unsettling. ... The music had been changed to what sounded like a reverse version of the normal theme, sped up. It was like death racing towards you. Red Sprite came walking slowly onto the screen and positioned himself in front of the tree. "I do not want to be alone forever. ... Exclamation point, exclamation point, exclamation point. And instantly, the screen cut to black, and the music ripped itself into an electrifying, blood-curdling screech. The screen faded back in a few seconds later, and the normal Lavender Town theme returned. The focus was centered on the tree. I tried to open up the menu, but it wouldn't respond. Nothing happened when I moved the control pad either. Then, I noticed there was one more skull than before the screen blacked out, at the center of the tree, ... and I understood. Red had logged off the game of life. Soon, it all began to unravel, ... The skulls littered around the trees were the skulls of the trainers I had defeated along the way. The skulls resting upon the branches were the gym leaders, Elite Four, and Gary. I set down my Game Boy, my hands shaking in astonishment. They had all taken a really long, peaceful nap. But why? Reflecting upon all the lines they had said after Red had defeated them, they all conveyed the idea that they no longer had a purpose. They are nothing but characters in a game, trapped. Once they served their purpose that they were programmed for, they would sit forever, for no farther reason to exist. No communication, no meaning. If you think deeply about it, it's worse than hell. Either they would be trapped like that forever, or they could, They picked the best of the worst. Whatever was waiting for them after they logged off the game of life was surely better than what would have happened if they stayed. But why would Red... There's so many instances of this phrase. You know what I'm talking about. But why would Red do that? He was the main character. He would always have a purpose until... The one controlling him stops playing. Eventually will come the day... Okay, this whole time, I keep deleting takes over and over again because I think I'm the one screwing up these lines, but I'm reading stuff like this. This doesn't make sense, right? Eventually will come the day. Like that's not like proper sentence structure, correct? Or am I really crazy? Okay. Eventually will come the day when we all are forced to stop everything. Then, even Red himself will be sentenced to eternal solitude. His sole existence is to embody you, the player, in the world of Pokemon. So when you stop playing, essentially, it is him who is sentencing himself to death, defeating himself. I turned the Game Boy off and on. It returned to the starting screen, the save file still intact. I opened it, and it returned to the view of the skull-bearing tree. I restarted the game once more and tried to select New Game. Text flashed on the bottom of the screen, "The dead do not return," and took me back to Lavender Town. Every day after that, I returned to visit the tree with the dead trainers. It seemed stupid, but giving some kind of requiem to them felt right. The unrest stirred up by the game was somehow calmed. I did this for weeks. Then one day, the internal battery died within the game. No matter how much I tried, the game wouldn't turn on. That's not what happens when the battery dies, but okay, that's fine. Red was gone forever. And when we cannot access our memories, there, we have truly died. Oh man, that is something profound at the end there. I feel like my whole view on life has been radically changed. That's some really deep stuff right there. So, that was better than the first one. And I definitely like it leaning more into the creepypasta territory. And I don't know. I don't know if this is just me, but it was. I feel so bad for saying this after I just read the whole thing, but like I somehow was honestly still just a little bored by it. I felt like I wouldn't necessarily say that it was predictable, but it all felt like I think like some of the ones that I enjoyed more. Like honestly, unfortunately, so far those are the ones in my first video. I feel like I was a little more invested in whatever like silly little story they were trying to tell. While this almost in a sense feels kind of like there's like almost no build up to it happening. Like there's a little build up, but it's like it's kind of just like okay, a couple creepy sentences and then oh my god, it's all really messed up and bad. But I almost feel like there's not like a plot here. I don't know if that sounds kind of dumb, but yeah, I feel like it's more like here's scary scenario and not really like a plot around it besides like oh, but like characters in video game are sentient, and when you're not playing it, they sit there and suffer. Like, cool concept, all that kind of like genuinely, like I do think this stuff is fun. It's cool. It's whatever. I almost feel like there's not a story here. I think it's just a couple like cool little ideas thrown together, and then sprinkling some edginess, sprinkling some creepypasta stuff. Still much better than that first story that I reread, but yeah, I don't think I particularly care for this one either, and I don't think it's any wonder that I've never read it before or heard people talk about it. Again, that sounds so mean, and I don't want to be mean. Again, I know I couldn't write anything like this to begin with. Now, I did once again pick out one of my favorite comments on this story. I love this. This guy says, "I like this pasta. It is very realistic, so 9 out of 10. And I'd like to ask this user, genuinely, what was realistic about this? What singular part of this was realistic? Was it the Game Boy turning up in volume when he was turning it down and it's shaking from the sound waves or whatever he said? Or was it all, like the skulls on the trees in Lavender Town in a Pokemon game? Which part of those was the realistic part? I think some of it, now that I'm thinking about it, is that stuff like Lost Silver, while, it still might not be the most incredible story ever written, there's a lot of dialogue outside of the game, and there's characters outside of the game happening. I'm not saying, that it's the most, expertly crafted thing, but it gives, a little more, flow to it and overarching story than just a spooky game. And I think that's why I kind of enjoy that stuff more. And even some of the other stuff, what one was that called? I read it in the other Pokemon video. It was about like Red being self-aware. Like there is a lot of dialogue between the main character and like, you know, the NPC in the game. Like I don't know, I think that kind of stuff helps things be more enjoyable through longer stories and stuff. Like I'm invested in what's going on with these characters and stuff rather than just spooky thing happened. I don't really feel like any of like the characters in the creepypasta were like fleshed out or very relevant to the story. And I know I'm taking this seriously as far as critiquing the story, but I think I just like when I stepped away for a second, I'm like, you know what? No, I think that is what I enjoyed about the stories, where there's like a bunch of extra dialogue and stuff happening rather than just a scary event. Okay, I had to get that out of my system. I got the next story for us, and I am not saying it out loud. Again, some of these stories, the titles are very unfriendly for YouTube. So, well, this is another spooky Red version. I had to do this already with another one of the stories. I think this is what I'm talking about. Maybe it's the one I'm talking about. I don't know. Where I just put like YouTube unfriendly Red or whatever. I'm going to have to do something creative with this one too. So I'm not going to tell you the full title of the story. I want to put a link to it, but I also don't even want that word in my description. Look, okay. I'm just going to say it. Full credit to the author. Author is not named. I am not comfortable enough linking this in my description and having the word in there. What you can do, I'll do something stupid and put up like a Google Drive link of the same description I'm going to have in this video, but with like this story in there too. And if I read another one with like a very bad word in there, because I don't want to not give credit. I do not want to do that. But at the same time, I also want to, you know, play it safe. I'm sure you can understand where I'm coming from. But, like, I combed through this, like not really reading the words, but there's, like, a lot of dialogue. It's longer and stuff. Like, I want to read this. It's got a very, very unfortunate title. So, let's get to this. Let's hope I didn't pick a bad one. Let's hope this is good. It looks like there's dialogue, there's characters, there's stuff going on. This is going to be a long one, so maybe now's a good time. Take a break, go make some coffee or some tea or something, get a snack. We're gonna be at this one for a while. All right. So this is Pokemon. Not reading that Red version. As a child, I was very much interested in Pokemon, thanks to my friend, because it was he who introduced me to the series of games. I still remember the day when we first found out about such a thing as a Pokemon creepypasta and gathered to spend the night with me to arrange a spooky night. Well, we can say that we were children then, and we were seriously afraid of all the pictures and stories. Previously, people were naive and believed in any mystery creatures that would come to them at night and get rid of them. What can I say? Then, only one picture could bring complete horror to people and provide them with a nightmare for a long time. That was verbatim. My God. But my friend and I continued to immerse ourselves in this atmosphere because we were terribly interested, despite the fact that we were already afraid to sleep at night. We were even looking for ways to hack the game, because then my friend already had Game Boy Colors, and I often watched him play Pokemon Red. But when I told him that I really liked Charizard, he rolled his eyes with a sigh and said that this choice was very overrated. Sounds like your friend's being an elitist. He's being a filthy Gen 1er. Anyways, we wanted to catch the famous glitch called Missing No to check if it was a myth or not, and we wanted to find out what it is capable of. ... This sentence structure is incredible. I'm already having so much more fun with this story. You know, maybe my taste is just really bad. But closer to my birthday, there was one bad news for us. ... What do you mean one bad news plural? My friend had to move to another city for family reasons. ... I was very sad because I wanted to see him on my party. Not at my party, on my party. As a result, he left, and I stayed sad until my B-Day. I can only hope that this isn't a native English speaker. And if you're not, I am not making fun of your English. It's way better than my Japanese, that's for sure. If you are a native English speaker, okay, I won't say any more then. Then, a few days before my birthday, at night, I had heard the doorbell ring and I ran there. I looked through the peephole and saw a courier leaving who had, that's a really fancy word to throw in the middle of all the maybe not so good sentence structure. That's amazing. I love this. Well, he saw this courier leaving who had left some kind of parcel near my door. I opened the door and quickly started looking through it, thinking that they just got the wrong address. But then I saw that it was sent from the city my friend moved to, and I quickly slammed the front door and ran to my room. I started unpacking it quickly, wanting to find out what was inside. I saw the Pokemon Red cartridge and Nintendo Game Capital, Boy Not Capital, and separate words. It's just the perfect gift ever, because I really wanted these two things. I started looking at my gift with a happy face until I noticed that something was wrong with the cartridge sticker, ... As if Charizard's head is ... soft and easily erased. Darn it! I ruined the sticker with one wrong movement of my finger, and now Charizard is headless on it ... I tried to glue its head back on, but everything just got crooked and worse ... In the end, I gave up and left Charizard on the stickered, just a little out of his head. Sighing heavily, I immediately began to think about which Pokemon I would need for a comfortable and fast playthrough ... I wanted Gengar, Vileplume, Gyarados, Pikachu, Pidgeot, and ... Charizard ... But, darn! Charmander will be very difficult at first. After all, I know what the first two gyms are, and it's just awful. And for a good game, I need a Bulbasaur ... GH, I didn't care. I still wanted Charizard. But ... I really wanted to find out if Missing No really exists ... There are so many ellipses in the story. And after completing the game, I wanted to catch it and experiment with its glitches. The reason I'm doing those inflections is because there's also so many exclamation points. Like, genuinely, I love the way this is written. I am having so much fun with this. So, to get back to it, after thinking about all this, I inserted the cartridge into the Game Boy and happily stared at the screen, waiting for the game to finally start. ... Huh? The intro with Gengar and Nidorino is missing? What's with the title screen? Why is there only the name of the game? That was like dialogue in quotation marks, just so you know. I already had a lot of questions. Look, me too, author. But the only thing that made me nervous was the gap between Pokemon and Red version, as if there should have been another word there. I silently pressed on a new game, and I was immediately greeted with an offer to choose a starter. This shouldn't have been in the game. Is this a hack? Is there something wrong with this game? My God, tell me that I'm confusing something, because this definitely shouldn't have happened at the beginning of the game. I sighed and chose Charmander, calling it Mary. That was the name of my favorite fish that passed away 6 months ago. Isn't that also the name of the Charmander in like another one of these Pokemon creepypastas? No, that's Mickey. That's what I'm thinking of. The screen after my choice showed me a pallet town, in the center of which stood my character, and next to them, a Pokemon sprite. I clicked on A and realized that it was my Charmander, but shouldn't it be in a Pokeball? I quickly went to the menu and noticed that the protagonist of the game is not red at all. Their name was Janet. I decided to look at her sprite and noticed that she's very different from the canonical main character. Her hair was dark gray and slightly longer than her shoulders. She had a joyful and sweet smile on her face, and all her clothes were just black. She wasn't even wearing the same jacket as Reddit, just a black t-shirt, jeans, fingerless gloves, and sneakers, and the black-white cap on her head. Oh man, you got a crush on your OC. That's really cute. I left the menu and went to the tall grass, but suddenly I was stopped by a character named Margaret. Margaret. Janet! Ahem. I'm sorry for making you wait. I was just delayed by the professor, ... But look what he gave us. Janet got Pokédex. So fast? Shouldn't I have delivered the parcel to the Professor Oak first? The Professor Oak, mind you. This author's very big on manners. I really appreciate that. Janet. Thank you, Margaret, and ... It's not your fault that you were detained, so there's no need to apologize. What do you mean detained? I know that could be like a normal word in a normal sentence, but what do you mean? I took a step into the tall grass, but Margaret stopped me again. Margaret, wait. I've been thinking ... How about a battle? Well, it's going to be like a warm-up. Okay? It's spelled O-K-E ? I'll treat Mary after that. I promise. Janet, whatever you say, Margot. After that, the classic first battle with the rival began. The classic, but it's also completely different. I noticed that Margaret is also different from the canonical rival. What gave you that impression, author? She had light gray, short, and fluffy hair, similar to the ones Blue had. The ones... Okay, this cannot be a native English speaker. There's no way. And again, like I said, if that's the case, I'm not making fun of your English, because I can understand everything, but there's no way. There's no way. So, dark hoodie and sneakers and light shorts. I could tell by her face and smile that she was full of confidence and ready for any battles. I don't particularly like where this is going. After I examined my rival, I began to attack her Squirtle. So sorry. I can't. I'm cracking under the pressure. Oh my god. Well, author decided to attack her squirrel named Barry. Oh no. I'm so sorry. Okay. What can I say? I easily won this battle despite the fact that Squirtle greatly reduced my defense with a tail whip. Margaret. Darn, Barry, ... Janet, don't worry so much. You also need to be able to lose. Solid life advice. Margaret, sigh, in quotation marks. I just thought the Squirtle would be stronger. And ... Janet, hey, don't underestimate your first Pokemon for just one battle, Margot. Are you seriously going to call Barry weak because Mary beat him? Margaret, okay, let's just forget about it. ... Margaret, ahem, ... Well, I guess it's time to start our journey. But, ... Are we going to be alone or work together? Janet, let's do it alone. I really want to see the result that we will achieve ourselves. Margaret, then, good luck, Janet. Good luck, Mary. After that, Margaret left, and from that moment, I began my journey. But I was very worried about the fact that Charmander was not the best choice to start the game, because the first two gyms would seriously slow down my playthrough. And in the end, I just started massively wrecking all Pokemon around in the Viridian Forest to level up Mary and catch Pikachu. But, unfortunately, I was looking for Pikachu for about 30 minutes, and by that time, my Mary was already level 17 and it evolved into Charmeleon, but I still caught a Pikachu and went to Pewter City. After a while, I reached the first gym and was, frankly, surprised because Mary defeated trainers and even Brock himself alone. I started using only Mary, and I was very happy when I defeated even Misty, because from that moment on, I could consider Mary a monster that could smash everything or everybody on her way. Even Pokemon trainers who types are super effective on the Charmander slash Charmeleon slash Charizard. I used all the power-ups that are only available in the game on Mary, including rare candies. I wanted her to be able to smash the Elite Four and even Margaret alone. Come on. This wording choice, is this intentional? Are we serious? What's going on with that? I remember how my friend was angry because Charizard couldn't learn Fly in Pokemon Red / Blue. In my case, the game spared me and my Charizard learned to fly. Great song, great band. Then I removed Pidgeot from my team. ... Anyways, it was still weak and now it became even more useless. But after each victory over Margaret, Janet joyfully shared her emotions and achievements in front of her. Sometimes Janet could even support her rival, and she gave Margaret a free Eevee that I once picked up. But at one point, Margot just started to answer monotonously, "I see." And when Janet asked if everything was okay, Margaret just left. Sometimes Mary could get into the conversation and push Margot away, while Janet in a panic tried to calm her Charizard. After 19 hours, in parentheses 4 days, of my playthrough, I finally reached the Elite Four, and Mary was around level 75. I watched with pleasure how Mary smashes absolutely everyone. Sometimes I even had the desire to jump up and scream with joy from the fact that I trained my favorite Pokemon so well. How happy I was then, it's just impossible to describe. But when I defeated Margaret, she just ran away. I was confused and wanted to follow her, but I was not allowed into the previous rooms, and I had to enter the Hall of Fame, ... alone, ... I skipped the Reddits and continued playing to start collecting Pokédex. That makes zero grammatical sense. But I ended up in the Viridian Forest watching Janet and Margot go somewhere. I clicked on A, and the dialogue started. Margaret: "I'm sorry I'm 20 minutes late, but... what did you want to talk to me about?" Janet, in quotations, sigh: "I wanted to discuss what happened after I beat you in the Pokemon League, ... Are you sure you weren't sad? I'm just worried because you started running away so quickly, ... Margaret: I... I was afraid of screwing up in front of you, honestly, ... I was really ashamed." Is that a callback? I was really ashamed when I lost to you. I was afraid that you would consider me weak, ... Janet: "Margot? What are you even talking about? I would have never thought of that. You are my best friend. Without your support, I probably wouldn't have even become a champion, ... Margaret: "What about Mary? Isn't she your number one friend? You spend time only with her, ... and you treat her better, ... I've sometimes wondered, ... what if you don't need me anymore? I'm really afraid of this because recently our friendship turned 2 years old, ... That is a way of putting it. Janet stopped Margot. Janet: "Margaret, ... I don't like you saying such things, ... Margaret." Now this is all caps, so "Please forgive me. Sorry. I... I didn't mean to upset you." Janet: "It's okay. It's not your fault, ... Why didn't you say anything about this before? I would spend more time with you because I really appreciate you." Ah, how sweet. Margaret: "Do you appreciate me more than Mary?" Now that's not very nice. Janet: "Of course. You have always been in the first place for me. You're better than Mary. Please don't let yourself think about things like Pokemon is better than you." Margaret, ... Janet: "Margot, is everything all right?" Margaret: "I need to go, ... I have to do something. I'm sorry for interrupting our walk in such an idiotic way, ... Janet: "No need to apologize. Bye, Margot." Margaret: "Good luck." After that, Margaret ran away from the Viridian Forest, and I went to Pallet Town. A few minutes later, I was at my house, and entering it, Janet shouted, Mary, I'm home. ... Silence. She's probably sleeping. ... Climbing the stairs, I took 2 steps closer to the bed, but Janet became motionless when the bed came into view. I noticed that Mary was lying on the bed, but there was something very wrong with her sprite. ... Is she ... head got a good head on her shoulders. That's one way of putting it. The music was getting quieter and quieter by the second. Spoiler, no, I don't think she's got a good head on her shoulders, but not everybody does. And the screen was getting darker and darker. ... When the music stopped completely, I went to Mary's body and pressed A, but the game just froze and I had to restart it. After I turned on the game again, can I have a second? Like, this is somewhat morbid, right? A little bit. Okay. After I turned on the game again, the title screen was completely empty. If it wasn't for the music, I would probably have sat for an hour thinking that the game is still loading. Why would you sit there for an hour thinking a Game Boy game still needed to load? Are we serious right now? I pressed A and heard a faint cry of Charizard. ... I ignored it, but after Mary's unfortunate, untimely sleep, it's uncomfortable for me to hear it now. ... So, in so many words, you did not ignore it. Why are you lying to me? I continued the game, but this time, Janet was on the first route. I went to the menu and decided to check all my inventory. The Pokédex has not changed. The Pokemon in the party are still the same, but in the items only, ... One Pokemon and a plush Charmander? It seems that Janet can't let go of the past, and Mary at all. ... I silently decided to check her trainer card and noticed how she had changed. ... Her head was down and her arms were just hanging by her sides. Her face was as if confused. Me too, author. And she was looking into the void. ... Now she was wearing an unbuttoned gray zip-up jacket, and her hair had become longer and just black. ... One question began to bother me. ... How long has it been since Mary's vacation? I wanted to go back to Pallet Town, but Janet stopped me with these words. What if they pass away too? ... I don't want their lives to end. ... I have to let them out? Okay. I realized that Janet is afraid that someone will possibly do something to one of her Pokemon again. ... Perhaps the next one was Haunter, because he was always the second strongest Pokemon in my team. How are you going to do something to a ghost? That's what I would like to know. With a heavy sigh, I went to the menu and entered my party, starting to release all of my Pokemon in turn. ... Haunter, Vileplume, Gyarados, Pikachu, ... I was so sad because I didn't want to let them go at all, but the game didn't give me any other choice. After that, I went back to Pallet Town and headed home, but Margaret met me on the way and stopped me. Margaret, Janet, what's going on? Janet, I need a rest. I don't need such fame where someone will try to take away from me my most precious and valuable thing in life to weaken me. I realized that despite the fact that I helped Kanto defeat Team Rocket, there were still people with black envy. Congratulations, now you're the new champion, just like you wanted, Margot. I hope you'll be happy because you've been dreaming about this from the very beginning. Margaret, ... Margaret, thank you. After that, Margot slowly started to leave, and I went into the house and Janet silently lay down on the bed. Their words, not mine. ... And that's all? Mary, stuff happened and Janet just gave up? No, it can't end like this. ... But why? There is the one Pokeball in her pocket. Maybe it's not over yet. Do I need to do something? ... But what exactly? ... The game probably tried to hint at me, but what? It was already becoming a riddle to me, but suddenly I remembered my goal that I wanted to fulfill at the end of the entire playthrough, to catch a missing no. My friend told me that it could be caught on the first try. I quickly got out of bed and ran out of the house. I went to the pond, but when I remembered that I couldn't swim without my Gyarados, but I decided to try anyways, like that verbatim. Janet, why am I doing this, And after these words, she began to swim. I immediately headed to Cinnabar Island, but Janet constantly complained that she was cold. Eventually, I swam to the island and came to the shore that my friend was talking about, and just started swimming up and down. After a while, it appeared. Missing gnome. It turned out to be real, It was true. It exists, and it exists absolutely everywhere. That's not true whatsoever, but I began to be afraid of it because I remembered stories that it could easily crash the game or even destroy the saves. I couldn't run or fight, and there was no PKMN button at all, There was only one thing left for me. Catch it. I desperately used the Pokeball and watched how the missing no was caught the first time, but it remained in place and the battle did not end. It immediately attacked Janet with a thrash attack, and all her health was demolished. With a loud screech, the screen went out and the game froze again. I restarted it again, and only a new game option was available. Did missing no really break my game? I started all over again with a fear and sadness and possibly even hunger, but now Janet has appeared in her house. She used to start her journey in the middle of Pallet Town, Maybe this is not a new game? Maybe the game is deceiving me? I checked her trainer card and noticed that she was wearing clothes after the unfortunate sudden vacation of her Charizard, and her face still did not have the warm smile that I would like to see. I left her, the big you should smile more energy. I left her room, but my mother was no longer at home. I left the house, and after that I heard a loud and glitchy sound, after which the music instantly disappeared from the game. I tried to get back into the house, but I couldn't. I wasn't allowed in. I approached the Oaks Laboratory, mind you, but I was also not allowed in there. I opened the menu and noticed I had the Pokemon option. But how? I haven't received my starter yet, I decided to check it out, and there was a creature called PKMN0X00 with 0 level. I looked at its data, but it was very glitchy and illegible, like a lot of this dialogue, unfortunately. I left Pallet Town, but no one attacked me in the tall grass. Even the young trainers ignored me, and when I tried to talk to them, they just kept silent. Under the loud ticking of the clock in my room, I silently stared at the screen and noticed that starting from the first route, a shadow appeared on Janet's face, which became bigger and thicker with each new locations, plural. I reached Pewter City hoping that Brock would fight me, but he silently gave me a badge and that was it. And after I left the gym, Janet said, "Teeth hurt, Why does it hurt so much, ? Why do I feel like something is flowing down them, Was it blood? Are her teeth hurt? But why, ? What the heck is going on, After Misty, she started coughing all the time, which slowed down my playthrough, and after Lieutenant Surge, her eyes started burning, Why is it getting harder and more painful for her, ? I was already strained by her shadow, which almost completely engulfed her face when I reached the Lavender Town. I immediately wanted to leave, but Janet stopped me with these words, "She's near!" I couldn't go anywhere else except to the Pokemon Tower, I didn't want to go there. I wanted to get out of here. I wanted to turn the game off, but my curiosity wouldn't let me. I had to go to the tower, which was empty. Even annoying channelers weren't there, just tombstones, and that's all. But starting from the entrance to the tower, with each new floor, Janet said this. I know why she was late. She was just jealous that I had someone else, and in the end decided to brutally get rid of Mary. She's a selfish monster who begged for pity. Mary was protecting me from her because she knew that me and my other Pokemon were in danger, and I didn't understand that. I was able to enter the 7th floor without the Sylph Scope because there was no spirit of the Cubone's mother. The floor was also empty, but instead of the old man who was originally surrounded by the Team Rocket members, there was a tombstone. I approached it and pressed A. I'm sorry, Mary. Janet got skull. Is that Mary's skull? ... question mark. I quickly looked into the inventory and realized that it could be used, but I was afraid to do it because maybe if I use it on Missing No, the game will definitely crash ... But I had to do it. Then someone suddenly interrupted me. Janet, don't do this. Please ... It turned out to be Margaret. But what is she doing here? Janet, why do you suddenly care so much? Margaret, I don't want you to lose yourself. Please, it's dangerous. Janet, it's all your fault. I'm not going to listen to you again. You constantly made me feel guilt and begged me to pity. Why did you do this to Mary? She was innocent, and you just did some unfavorable stuff to her. Margaret, I admit that I was a goofball. ... I'm sorry that I was a jealous egoist then. But please, don't do it. It won't lead to anything good. ... Janet, you know, I don't care anymore. I don't care if you insult and humiliate yourself. Now, I want to say that you are nothing. Mary has always been better than you, and, unlike you, she didn't whine all the time when you were around. But as soon as I started talking about Mary a little bit, and you started calling yourself unnecessary, worthless, and so on, and when I started sharing my achievements, it's like you don't care. I have always supported you and wanted you to always feel only happiness, but now I regret it. I don't want to feel negative anymore. It's over, and it's all because of you. Margaret, give me another chance, ... I'll get better, ... I won't do it again, ... Please, ... That was the end of the dialogue, and I had to use Mary's skull on Missing No. Margaret tried to stop me, but Janet just said, Why should I forgive someone who has treated me ungratefully? After that, I heard Charizard's loud and distorted cry. The battle began. I saw Margaret's terrified face. She was crying in despair because it was already too late to do anything. She sent Lapras out, while Mary's sprite was glitching slightly every second. I checked the attacks of my Charizard, but there were only of the flying and normal type, and they all had only one PP. I attacked Lapras using Slash. Thereby, Lapras passed. But its sprite remained on the screen somewhere to the side. Its head was in two, but ... It wasn't the fact that Mary was causing a massacre that horrified me, ... I was scared when I saw the red blood. It's not even a Game Boy Colors. How can, oh my god, that's amazing. How can there be a red color here? Only black and white colors are supported on this console, ... Maybe my Game Boy is also faulty? Darn it, did my friend really give it to me? If so, where did this idiot buy it all? I continued the battle with a shudder. The next one turned out to be Ninetales, on which Mary used Fly. Its body was split in a couple pieces as well. The third was Jolteon, whom Mary also did not spare, and bashed its skull in fatally. Wow. Jeez. The last one was Barry. Margot started begging me for mercy again, but I couldn't do anything but attack again. Mary attacked Blastoise with Bite, therefore tore out his face with her fangs. The battle was over, and Margaret was in despair. What? Okay. The upper left screen looked as if someone had chewed it off and replaced all the pixels with the letters J, A, and images of flowers or even windows. What? Every second there were more and more of them until they surrounded Janet and Margaret. I approached Margaret and pressed A, but she didn't say anything. I opened the menu and there was only one option. Janet. I pressed on it and the following option appeared. Possibly removing of some sort of extremity on your body that may include your eyes. I wanted to somehow avoid doing that to Margaret, but I couldn't. ... The game again didn't give me anything to choose for myself. ... I had to give Margot a heads up. After that, the screen went black, and I heard snap, screech, snap, silence. ... Did you hear silence? Can you hear silence? I guess technically, yeah. After that, the screen showed me the title screen. Now it was not empty, but on the contrary, it was complete. ... After all, the trainer and her signature Pokemon were on it, and the gap between Pokemon and a red version was no longer there because the word head and stuff now stood instead of it. I looked at Mary and Janet's sprite with a stress and realized that I could not see anything good from this game anymore because once the characters I liked began to disgust me, Mary became just a glitchy living skeleton of Charizard whose muzzles and claws were covered with the blood of Margaret's Pokemon. Her eye sockets were completely empty, but they glowed with a white light. She was still able to fly due to the fact that her wings consisted of missing no glitches. And Janet has definitely gone insane. She had a wide red smile on her face. Blood was pouring out of her sick red eyeballs, but she didn't care anymore. A thick shadow still covered most of her face, and her hands were apparently covered with Margot's blood. Her hair was long and very disheveled. I clicked on continue, but the game only answered me, "The journey is over. There's no point in continuing anymore." After that, I tried to start a new game, but the game again did not give me anything to do. ... It seems that the story really does not, and will not, have a good ending. But if I didn't abuse the use of Mary, then everything would be fine? Although, ... Margaret would still be jealous of Janet, ... But there is no point in thinking about all this anymore, ... After all, it's ... in bold letters, but not capitalized, over. Okay, so that was Pokemon Thou Shalt Not Be Named Red version. I'm not trying to be annoying with some of my substitutions. Sometimes, personally, I get a little bit of a kick out of it, trying to think of something to exchange the words with, but it's just, there was way more in the story than I thought I was going to be, and the problem is it's like all the same word, so I'm trying not to just keep repeating the same stuff over and over again, but like there's a lot of bad language in the story that I'm trying to skirt around with just to be completely safe. There's no comments, there's no author attached to this, there's nothing like that. However, I will say, for like the first maybe like half of it, I was thoroughly entertained, honestly. I love the somewhat broken English at points. It was genuinely very entertaining to read. This was so much more entertaining to read than the last two stories. However, and I'm sure you've kind of picked up on this yourself if you've also read the story or watched my other video or whatever with the Pokemon Other Bad Word Red with the Charizard Mickey and all that kind of stuff. This is kind of just like a rehash of that in a lot of ways, honestly, but like it is different enough. I definitely think this is like somebody that read that story and was like, man, I really like that story. I want to write my own thing like that, and kind of maybe stuck just a tiny bit too close to the source material, like still using the whole missing number thing as like a glitch and stuff, and having the Charmander and all that kind of stuff do what happened to it. However, like I said, still, even if I was like, man, I really like that story, I still don't know if I could have written something half as good as this. So again, no shade of the author, because I genuinely did like reading this, and as dumb as it is, I enjoyed reading it a lot more than the other two. I think that says a lot about more of my quality of taste in this fine literature than it does the quality of the stories, but nevertheless, I think I enjoyed that a lot. I really do think I did. At the end of this video, feel free to rank the stories in the comments, which ones you liked the most, which you didn't. Maybe I'm totally off base here and I have no idea what I'm talking about. So, with that being said, I think we should continue on to the next story. Alright, the next one, once again, no author. I'm starting to see a pattern there. However, what I will do, once again, I will leave this in the description. That's unfortunately the best credit I can seem to do. But this name popped out to me, Once again, these are all ones that I've never read when I was younger. I don't know how old they are or anything, but I'm not familiar with how this is going to go. But I picked this one out because this is a Pokemon Green creepypasta. Apparently, this one is called Pokemon Dark Green. Does anybody remember Pokemon Green? Not me, I only have multiple videos on it. I'm not referring to the Japanese game. Never mind. I'm not referring to the Japanese game with Venusaur on the box. I mean the one sold in American stores with Scyther on the front. I seem to be the only one who remembers this game. I wish I never encountered it in the first place. ... It all started in 1998 when Pokemon made its way to the US with Pokemon Blue and Red. I was only 7 years old. A friend of mine had let me borrow his copy of Blue. And from that moment forward, I was addicted to the series. When the time came, I was reluctant to return the game to him. But I did. For the next few days, all I could talk about was the game. As a kid, your whole world can revolve around a simple game, like Pokemon. I ended up helping my dad with yard work for a few days before my birthday, and I couldn't help but talk his ear off about Pokemon. To my surprise, he said, "Get in the car, we're going to Walmart." Was he really about to purchase me my own copy of Pokemon? I was incredibly excited. This was one of the best days of my life, but it would also lead to one of my worst. We arrived at Walmart, and my father told me that this would be an early birthday gift, and I could only keep it if I behaved myself and did all my other chores. I would have done anything to get my hands on a copy of Pokemon. We went inside and made our way to the video game section, and there they were, sprawled across the shelves in a beautiful fashion. Pokemon Red, Pokemon Blue, and ... Green? I had never heard of Pokemon Green, but the Scyther on the cover enticed me, and I had to have it. I grabbed a copy, checked out at the register, and went home as happy as could be. That happiness would not last. When I arrived at my house, I ran upstairs to my room, tore apart the box, and took the cartridge out. The cartridge was very odd. I assumed it would have a normal picture of a Scyther on it, just like the box did. Instead, the Scyther was offset to the right, almost as if it was battling something that wasn't there, and it was almost glowing. The background was black, and underneath the Pokemon logo, it did not say green version, as I had expected. As unsettled as this made me feel, I placed the cartridge into my Game Boy. I turned it on and found that instead of viewing an intro like in blue, it immediately brought me to a screen with only one choice: continue. Where was new game? I wasn't too disappointed. My overwhelming curiosity compelled me to click on continue. I did so, and after a few moments, I found my character in what I assumed was my home. I tried to walk outside, but to my dismay, I could not exit the house. There were no stairs, and I couldn't interact with any of the objects in the room. What the heck? I felt a sinking feeling in my stomach, realizing that my cartridge might be broken, and I may not be able to play this amazing video game after all. I shut my Game Boy off, took out the cartridge, blew on it, and put it back in. It brought me to the same screen with the same option. Continue? I clicked on continue, and it brought me to the same room. I tried shutting it off and blowing on the cartridge a few more times before I finally became too frustrated and gave up. What the heck was going on? How many times have I read that exact line tonight? I told my dad about the game, and he took a look at it. He was brought to the same screen on the same room, and he, as well as I, could not escape the room. He saw the torn up box on my floor and sighed. Well, we can't return it now. To my surprise, he then said, I'll have to get you a new one tomorrow. I became incredibly happy once more and gave my dad the biggest hug I had ever given him in my life. Though disappointed in the game I received, I was glad to have the opportunity to get another one. The next day, my father and I proceeded to Walmart. We walked over to the video game section, and a lot of the Pokemon games were gone. Half of blue, most of red, and all of green had apparently been sold. There weren't even shelves anymore for where Pokemon Green had once been. Wow, ... I thought to myself, ... Green must be popular. I wasn't upset. I wasn't intending on purchasing another copy of Green anyhow, seeing as it didn't work out so well the last time. This time, I grabbed Red. I had already played Blue and attempted to play Green, so this time I wanted to try something new. We went home. I ran upstairs and opened the box carefully in case we had to return this one. I took the red cartridge out, placed it in my Game Boy, and played ... 4 hours. I played Pokemon Red until the sun came up the next morning. To this day, Red is my favorite of the Pokemon games and is a great childhood memory. As for Green, I put it in a drawer and forgot about it until many years later. It was May of 2007 when I received a copy of Pokemon Pearl from the Nintendo DS. My dad, knowing how much I loved the series, bought me it, out of the blue, knowing how happy I'd be. Thank you so much, I exclaimed before my dad could even respond. I ran next door to my friend Billy's house and showed him, oh, new character, this is some development. What? He said. My mom just bought me Diamond. Apparently, my dad and Billy's mom had planned this for a week without the two of us catching on. Without another word, we started to play. We felt like kids again. After many hours, we stopped playing and decided to relive our childhoods and talk about the original generation of Pokemon. My favorite will always be Red, I stated. Blue for me, said Billy. I recalled my first time playing Red, and then I remembered something that I hadn't thought about in years, the game that I had played before Red, or at least tried to, Pokemon Green. What about Green? I asked Billy. Billy responded with, I'm really colorblind. No, that's not what he said. Did you ever play that one? Billy looked confused. Very funny. Now I was confused. What do you mean, haha funny? Billy looked displeased. You and I both know there's no such thing as Pokemon Green. Yes, there is, I said. He now realized I wasn't joking. He was further confused. What are you talking about? To my understanding, up until this point, Pokemon Red, Blue, and Green came out at the same time in 1998. It soon became overshadowed by Red and Blue, and this is why I hadn't heard much about Green since my younger years. This is what I had thought, at least. According to Billy, the biggest Pokemon expert I know, Pokemon Green doesn't exist, at least not an American one with Scyther on the front. Determined to prove Billy wrong, I invited him to my house and brought him to my room, where I would show him my copy of Pokemon Green. I dug through the drawers of my desk and eventually turned them upside down in my efforts, only to be let down. Where is it? I distinctly remember putting it in my desk drawer when I was younger. See, Billy said, Green doesn't exist. You probably dreamed it up or something. Billy went home, but I kept searching and searching, only to tear my room apart for nothing. Pokemon Green was gone. The following day, I woke up, riveting, jumped out of bed, brushed my teeth, and continued downstairs. There, I found my father, with a large breakfast waiting for me. The usual Sunday, we ate and indulged in some small talk about sports and the weather. I decided that maybe I should ask my dad about the game, and so I did. That old thing? Oh yeah. I took it from your room soon after I bought you the new one, and tried to return it without the package. They tried to lie to me and say they didn't even sell that game there. I gave them a what for and stormed out. They could have just told me they needed the box. Anyways, I think it's on my dresser upstairs. I'll go get it. As my dad made his way to his room, I thought to myself, Billy said the game doesn't exist, and Walmart said that they had never carried it in their store. This was beginning to make me feel uneasy. Lo and behold, my father came down the stairs and handed me the game I had been searching for. Pokemon Green. I felt unnerving, verbatim, but overwhelming need to attempt to play the game once more, so I grabbed my old Game Boy from my room and proceeded to play. I would have had Billy dissect the game with me, but he's usually at church with his family around this time. I was alone in my efforts. The game started the way it normally did, with nothing but continue to choose from. I chose so, and found my character in the same room, trapped. This time around, being older, I was able to pay attention to more detail. Maybe now I could find a way out. I want a way out of the story very soon, honestly. I decided to hit start and see if I had any Pokemon. In my party was a Scyther. Not so surprising, level 25, knowing only the moves Strength, Cut, and Flash. Could a Scyther even learn all these moves? I ventured to my items, only to find nothing. And to my trainer stats, only to find out that I had no money, badges, same here, and 0 hours clocked in, which is impossible. If I hadn't already crossed the threshold of weird, I now had. I gave the room a good once-over to see if I could spot anything I missed as a child. To my delight, I did. Hopefully what you found somewhere in there was a potentially more intriguing story. There was a boulder in the room. Man, I'm always keeping boulders in my room. As a kid, I probably thought it was a chair or something, considering I had never really played Pokemon before. The boulder was on the right side of the room, against the wall. Naturally, I had Scyther use Strength, and I was able to move it. I walked up to the spot on the wall that the boulder was in front of, and hit the A button. A text box came up, and it just said, Dark, ... Every time I hit A, it would just say, Dark, ... What the heck is happening? I thought for a second. Did you now? And remembered that Scyther knew Flash. I used it near the wall where the boulder had been. A path became lit. A seemingly miraculous exit had been found. I grew less unnerved and more excited as I walked this almost endless hallway that was just big enough for my character to squeeze through. I finally came to a literal light at the end of the tunnel. as if I was exiting a cave rather than a house. I walked through, and where did it bring me? I ended up on the side of my house in what looked like Pallet Town. Mind you, my house looked to be of normal size, void of any protruding extensions on the side where the hallway would have been. This was odd, but I just shrugged and kept playing. There was also no way to get back in the house, seeing as there were no doors. I walked around a bit and found that there were no doors on any of the buildings. It was a ghost town, aside from what looked like Professor Oak standing in front of his lab where the door should have been. I tried talking to him, but a text box came up every time with, say it with me, ... This made me feel on edge, but I marched on. The only logical thing left to do was head up to Viridian City, so I started towards the grass. Before I could even touch the grass, I definitely think a lot of us probably need to go touch the grass. Professor Oak came up from behind me. "What do you think you're doing? It's too dangerous for you and your Pokemon." A battle sequence started. Was I really going to battle Professor Oak? Sure enough, I was. The sprite for Oak was strange. He was looking down at the ground, and the expression on his face made him look as though he were troubled somehow. Oak sent out a level 5 Squirtle, and I obviously sent out my level 25 Scyther. The Squirtle sprite looked the same as Oak, troubled and looking down. I beat it quickly, and Oak said, "Don't go!" He then sent out, unsurprisingly, a, in quotation marks, troubled level 5 Charmander. I beat him quickly as well. Oak restated, "Don't go!" He then sent out none other than a level 5 and equally, not in quotation marks, troubled Bulbasaur. I finished him off and the battle was over, but not before Oak came on the screen. Not before Oak came on the screen one last time to say, "Don't go." Professor Oak stayed there, near the grass, silent, as I walked off towards Viridian City. Once he was out of sight, a text box popped up, probably from Oak, with the words, "I beg of you, do not leave. You won't be able to return." Unmoved by Oak's words, but unnerved by the creepiness of what I was now convinced was a hacked game. Just now you became convinced. It wasn't anything before. Okay, very astute of you. I pressed on towards Viridian City. Before I could reach my destination, the light illuminating my way disappeared. It became darker and darker until it was pitch black. Just as it became pitch black, I ran into a wild Pokemon. From this point forward, I will refer to this Pokemon simply as, in quotation marks, the Invisible. It was level 100 and had no sprite or name. I was unable to fight it because every time I would choose one of Scyther's moves, it would say, "Scyther is too scared to move." I would run away from the battle and attempt to move, but I would find myself running into the Invisible again. Before I could even take one step, I was stuck. This happened about another 5 times before I finally decided to stay still and think. Yeah, okay. What if I used Flash? I had Scyther use Flash, only to find my path to Viridian City dimly lit with a dark green tint. No, you didn't. This game probably doesn't have color. I continued, and the Invisible seemed to have vanished. I finally made it to Viridian City, or at least a dark green, dimly lit version. As soon as I stepped foot into the town, a text box popped up that said, "Viridian City, stay forever and enjoy the gym." What the F? Stay forever? Enjoy the gym? I tried walking back from where I had come, but there was an invisible wall. I tried walking forward, only to find another invisible wall at the tip of the town. A lot of innuendo here. Oak was right. I could never return nor leave Viridian City. I calmed down a bit and explored the town. Much like Pallet Town, the buildings had no doors except for the gym. The only person in town was the old man who teaches you how to catch Pokemon, avoiding the old man, whom I'd found creepy even in the normal Pokemon games. I tried the gym. That probably should have separated that sentence. I don't see how a comma makes that work. It was locked. I was all around town, and inevitably, I had to talk to the old man to progress. Reluctantly, I did so. Hey, so you want to catch Pokemon, do you? You want to become a Pokemon master, defeat the powerful trainers at the Pokemon League, and enjoy an endless life of solitude? I was then given a choice, yes or no. Endless life of solitude? I chose no. Well then, stay forever and enjoy the gym. What the heck? I can't enjoy a locked gym. I spoke to him again to find the exact same script, only this time I chose yes. He said, well then, you are well on your way to becoming what you've always wanted to be. But first, come with me. I will introduce you to a true Pokemon Master. He walked me to the gym door and stood near the entrance. I tried to speak with him again, but it wouldn't work. I guess he wouldn't be introducing me to anyone. I tried the gym once more. This time, I could walk in. I was slightly nervous, but thought to myself, it's only a hacked game made by some mentally unstable Game Freak worker or something. Only part of me believed that, while the rest of me believed this game was more sinister than that. I hoped it wasn't the latter. I found my character inside darkness. The gym was pitch black. I had Scyther use a flash, and the room became dimly lit with a dark green tint, as I had expected. The gym was nothing like the complicated maze it was in Red. Here, it was just a small room. At the tip of the room was what looked like Giovanni. I walked over to him and hit the A button. He said, unfortunately, this is where your Pokemon journey ends. There is nothing beyond this point, and you will remain in this room forever. I am sorry. What? That's it? It can't be. I walked around the room multiple times and tried leaving, but alas, I could not. I sat there, disappointed. As creepy as the game was, I felt such a strong need to finish it. After a few moments, I tried speaking to Giovanni again. This time, he just simply said, I am sorry. Every time I spoke to him, that is all he would say. I am sorry. I tried talking to him from the side, but it didn't work. I then tried talking to him from behind, in the space right before the wall at the end of the room. He turned and said, I am sorry. I truly am. A battle sequence started. Finally, productiveness. Is that a word? Real time fact checking. Productiveness. Is that a word? Productiveness? Wait. It is. Oh, egg on my face. My bad, author. Giovanni has no choice. Came up in the text box as opposed to Giovanni wants to fight. That was weird, but I brushed it off like every other weird thing in the game. The battle had started. Giovanni sent out is all the next text box said, and the Pokemon he sent out was none other than the Invisible at level 100. I once again sent out Scyther against what I could only assume was a Pokemon. This time, I could actually fight. Every time the Invisible used a move, it would say, used, ... and nothing would happen. Every time I used Strength or Cut, it would miss. Every single time. So the battle was never going to end. Finally, I decided to use Flash. What happened next was quite unexpected. The Invisible became visible. The Pokemon was none other than a Scyther, but a darker version, much like the dark green tint cast over the town. The sprite was also strange. I can only describe it as sinister, evil looking, I guess. We fought. My moves didn't miss this time, but they did little damage to a level 100 Scyther. The dark version of my Pokemon now knew the moves of my Pokemon as well, and after using Cut twice, my Pokemon was defeated. Giovanni came on the screen and said once more, "I am sorry." I was back in the gym, even though my only Pokemon had fainted. I double-checked, and Scyther did in fact have 0 HP. I walked over to Giovanni and talked with him one last time. This is what he said. "You have to find a way out. He has control over us all. You will only be another victim. There is a door, ... His sentence was cut off by an animation. The animation was of Scyther grabbing Giovanni from behind. Oh no. I stared at the still image for a while. Giovanni looked so frightened that it made me sick to my stomach. After maybe 3 minutes, the image faded out, and I was back at the gym. The author was the same, but Giovanni was gone. I tried to leave, but as soon as I reached the door, another animation started. It was the same as the last one, but instead of Giovanni in Scyther's grips, it was my Scyther. Now I was scared. After a few minutes, the animation played out and my Scyther was cut to pieces. Even in the low quality of the animation, it still induced a great deal of fear into me. The animation ended and skipped to an image of my Scyther's head, looking ever so frightened as it lay there in the darkness, and a text box popped up saying, "Nothing more than, you failed." Here, the game froze. Disturbed, I slid the cartridge out of my Game Boy and threw it at the wall. I ran downstairs and poured myself a glass of water. After calming down, I called Billy and had him come over. I needed someone else to experience this. Needless to say, I was freaked out. Billy came over rather quickly. "What is it? What happened?" I explained everything to the best of my ability, which there's not much of, but you are doing an okay job. And he just laughed. "Yeah, right," he said. I told him I would prove it. I ran upstairs, picked up the cartridge off the floor, and ran back downstairs and showed him. He was unimpressed. "How long did it take for you to make this?" I was a little angry at this point. "I didn't make it. It's real. Play it. You'll see." I handed him my Game Boy, and he put the cartridge in. He turned it on, but nothing happened. He took out the cartridge and blew on it, but to no avail. It didn't work anymore. I must have damaged it when I threw it at the wall. Billy laughed again. "You had me going for a second." He then left and went home, while I sat there, still taking in what had just happened, just moments before Billy had arrived. I thought aloud. Giovanni said there was a door, ... Maybe I should have looked for it instead of trying to leave. Really, my thoughts were pointless, because, to this day, I can't get the cartridge to work. I wish I looked for the door and avoided seeing that animation. In a way, it traumatized me, and I haven't been the same since. As you can see, I still have the cartridge. I scanned it using my printer so you could see an up-close photo of what it looks like. I know it's a little blurry, but it's the best I could do. The game is real. Now, I'm definitely 100% putting... Most of these stories don't have, like, pictures. This is the first one that I've read tonight that does. That was the end of the story, by the way. This picture is so going in my thumbnail. I have an amazing idea of what to do with this. I've had this in my head, like, the whole time I've been recording this. I got this. You will see this amazing image. Don't you worry. So, what do we think? What do we think about this story? Honestly, like, I already saw one of these comments. What's with the 20% sentences? I kind of almost get what they're saying. There's a lot of, like, it's not even like run-on sentences, but like a lot of commas where there shouldn't have been, and there should have just been full stops and breaks in the sentences. But at first, honestly, like the story was just kind of grating, and maybe it's because I've been reading some not so great stories, but like I was starting to get quite over the story in like, you know, like maybe the first quarter of it or so. But honestly, that kind of picked up, and I started enjoying it a lot more when he was actually able to start like quote unquote playing the game and describing it. Then things are actually quite interesting, and I was starting to enjoy it at the end. The first, like literally like the first quarter of the story does not need to happen. That was like a complete waste of time. And again, I'm not being harsh towards the author. Like, again, this is probably better than anything I could do for reals, but still, like, that first quarter could just be cut out completely. The actual, like, game portion of it is kind of cool. I liked how he talked about, like, oh, what's behind that door? Because, like, in all for realsiness, that's probably just, like, I want to put that there, but I don't know what to do with that in the story, so just think on it, just chew on it, which is, it's fine. We don't always need to know what's going on to make it interesting or spooky or whatever. I feel like they wanted there to be a door somewhere, but they just didn't know how to write that in and what to do with it after the fact, which, you know, that's fine. That's fine. So that one I think I like more than the first two, but definitely not as much as Pokemon Red That Shall Not Be Named. We're going to do one more tonight. However, I got another good comment for you, and it's not about the 20% sentences. This comment says, "Hello, I remember seeing it in stores long ago. I'm this age now, but you're not crazy, and I believe you. I forgot all about it till I came across this, and I like this story, and would like to talk more about the game. If you wouldn't mind, my email is," I'm not reading that email. Names, not reading the name either. "Hope to hear from you. Thanks." What is my man talking about? He can't be real, right? Like, does he just want to like write like a sequel? Or is he legitimately trying to say, hey, this game's real, man. I know about this game. Like, no, you don't. No, you don't. This game's not real. Stop it. It's so adorable. I love it. That comment was great. All right. Man, these are almost starting to blur together a bit. They really are. But must go on. We must read more incredible Poképastas. So, like I said, last one for the night. Let's just get right into it. This one is called Pokemon Electrocuted Yellow. So, once again, I'm starting to sound like a bit of a broken record here, but there is no author attached to this, and I don't see any credit anywhere in any comments or anything. So, as much as I want to credit people, even if, well, unless they don't want to be credited, you know, that's also a very fair thing. But I want to give people credit. I don't want to be a jerk and just take people's stories. But there's only so much I could do at a certain point, you know. So, let's get started with our last story. When I was younger, I was super into the Pokemon series. Big shocker there. I feel like all these stories start with like the same type of, like, to be fair, why would you start a Pokemon creepypasta with, I was never a fan of the Pokemon games? Like, that would be ridiculous. So, when I was younger, I was a big fan of the Pokemon series. Me and my siblings played them religiously on our not capitalized Game Boys. I was always a huge fan of Pokemon Yellow. I liked the fact that Pikachu would walk around with you outside of the Pokeball, and you can even interact with him. Sometimes he would even go like, Pika! I thought that was really cute, being a girl and all. I remember playing Yellow more than any of the other Pokemon games, but eventually we grew up a bit and started to play the later Pokemon games that came out, such as Pokemon Diamond and Pearl on the Nintendo 3DS. I think the author means DS. I mean, I guess you could play Diamond and Pearl and the Three DS, but what do I know? However, shortly after these games came out, I wanted a trip down memory lane and play the old Game Boy games that we used to play growing up. I went around yard sales and game shops looking for a copy of Pokemon Yellow, as that was my favorite one growing up. I eventually found a Craigslist ad for a Pokemon Yellow that even had a picture attached to it. The sticker was a bit faded by the eyes of the Pikachu, but at the time, I didn't think much of it, being a used copy and all. Strangely enough, when I met the seller for the Pokemon game, he didn't want much money for it, considering the rising price of old Pokemon games and all. He only asked for $6.66. Once again, at the time, I didn't think much of that, but in retrospect, that made me feel a little uncomfortable. He said it was from his kid that no longer had the ability to play Pokemon games after he went through some sort of traumatic event after playing the game. I wanted to ask what this was all about, but he told me he was running late for a meeting with the doctors at his kid's hospital. Thinking nothing of it, I decided to hurry home so I could play my brand new but also used Pokemon Yellow cartridge for the Nintendo Game Boy. But then I realized I had no AA batteries, so then I went out to my local Rite Aid and picked up 3 AA batteries just in case, because I had a Game Boy Pocket and it only needed 2 AA batteries, but you can never be too sure. When I finally jammed the batteries in my Game Boy Pocket, I booted up Pokemon Yellow. Strangely enough, I heard no cry of Pikachu in the title screen. I was starting to think, man, was this some sort of hacked game? Just my luck. When I booted into the title screen and pressed start, there was no continue option. That battery inside the Game Boy cartridge must be dead. Ooh, foreshadowing. Nah, not really. So my only option was to click on New Game. When I booted up the game, I didn't have the choice to select my name. Instead, I was automatically booted into Pallet Town, but inside the house of your rival. My name was already decided for me in my trainer card, being displayed as green, not blue. Interesting. I have never seen somebody call their rival green before, let alone have I ever seen a cartridge where you could play as the rival green/blue/Gary. While initially being disappointed that I got a hacked game, my curiosity pushed me forward to playing this game more. When I left the rival's house, I did not find the normal main character, Red, anywhere. I thought this was strange. I decided to try to go to Oak's lab to get a starter Pokemon. But when I went into Oak's lab to get a starting Pokemon, Professor Oak, the Professor Oak, was no longer in his lab. All that was on the table was one Pokemon ball. It looked slightly scuffed up, and the other 2 Pokeballs were gone. I decided that the only thing I could do was to take the Pokeball. When I took the Pokeball, it told me that I got a M-dash. This is not a normal Charmander or Squirtle, or Bulbasaur. However, you normally wouldn't get those in Pokemon Yellow anyways. Now that I got my first Pokemon, M dash, not missing number, that would be so cliched. I decided to start my journey where else but the top of Pallet Town. When I decided to go through the grass, I got into a wild battle. But there wasn't a Pokemon in the battle screen. What battled me instead was Professor Oak. He said, "Blue, don't do this." But I had no choice but to throw out my Pokeball. Professor Oak threw out a Pikachu. This was very strange. When Professor Oak threw out the Pikachu looked like it didn't have any eyes. I see. Okay. When Professor Oak tried to get Pikachu to attack, it missed. Probably because it doesn't have any eyes or anything like that, I suppose. I don't know. Then, when it was my turn, I sent out M dash to attack. M dash used Cut. This was the only move it had, and it had 68 PP. Any more, and it would have been a ha-ha funny number. Sorry. Any more, and it would have been a very funny coincidence. However, 68 was still more than the normal max PP for a move. However, this still only being cut instantly KO'd the Professor Oak's Pikachu in one hit, and it wasn't even a critical. It looked like, oh my god, it looked like I was shaking when I was looking at my Nintendo DS screen. It looked like the Pikachu somehow got split in half, and it almost looked like there was like red water in between him. No, it couldn't be. There's no way some sicko would make a Pokemon game with blood. I was so shaken up for this that I had to run to my bathroom and, well, I won't get into details about what happened. Getting back to my Nintendo 3DS screen, I decided to keep playing the game. After the battle, Professor Oak didn't even give me any money. I thought this was very strange. This legitimately might be a ROM hack. What gave you that impression, author? Okay, it's fine, it's whatever. Moving on, I got to Brock's Gym. However, there were no NPCs in town, and there wasn't even a Nurse Joy in the Poke Center. I thought that this was weird. I was getting an unsettling feeling in my stomach. Pressing on due to my curiosity, I decided to go to the gym. The music stopped playing. It sounded like there was a low growl in the distance. Even when I tried to turn my Game Boy up, the sound got quieter. That's strange. When I went to where Brock would normally be, there was one person there. It was red! ... And when I pressed the A button on him, he said, ... It's all your fault. ... This was weird, as Red normally doesn't have this kind of dialogue. And also, it was weird because I was fighting Red. When the battle started, he sent out a P dash? This was strange. It looked like a Pikachu split in half, and its eyes weren't there. When it went to go attack me, all it could do was struggle. ... When I sent out my M dash, the whole screen got corrupted. Red said, ... Why would you do this to us? ... I didn't know what to do, so I pressed the A button. After I did, Pikachu got split into 4s, and more of the mysterious red liquid came out of him. It looked so realistic for Game Boy graphics. At this point, I was crying hysterically, and I could barely see through my tears the screen of my Game Boy Color. When I was done with this fight, the Pikachu was gone, or should I say, the P dash. When I talked to Red one more time, who looked all glitchy like Missing No, the Lavender Town music started to play, and he said, "Why would you leave us like this? ... I didn't mean for what to happen to your rat Pokemon to happen ... but that doesn't mean ... that you need to do this ... to us ... After that was over, the screen went black. I shut off my Game Boy and went into a fit of rage, sadness, and threw my Game Boy into the garbage disposal. I couldn't have that thing in my house. That was too scary. So, that was the end of the story. And I want to let you know something. I was probably making it maybe a little too obvious, but I just completely made that up. I was trying to have a little fun, poke a little fun at some of the other Pokemon creepypastas, and I feel like I did an okay job, but I was trying to be a little stupid about it and keep switching with the consoles and stuff like that. But originally, my plan was just to read like another one. But to be honest, it was starting to like all kind of bleed together in a bit, and I was kind of like, man, like I could either read one more okay Pokemon creepypasta, or maybe try to do something a little fun and read something that you've never heard before. So I was thinking about it, and I am by no means a writer. In fact, I'm quite bad at writing. But I thought I'd give a crack at it and see what I could do, just to give you something interesting to close out the video with. Plus, I didn't really want to read another like 30-minute video and have this video drag on any longer than it already is. Granted, I'm definitely going to revisit this topic at some point, because these are genuinely a lot of fun to read. And I just kind of wanted to throw my hat in the ring and dilute the pool of quality even more in these Pokepastas. So, with that being said, I'm not going to rate that story because it's garbage, obviously. I made it up completely on the spot, and I'm sure you could tell. So, with that being said, let me know what your favorite ones were in the comments. If you want more Pokepastas, I got another video on that. If you want to see like real Pokemon videos, I got videos on that. Check out the fossil manipulation glitch in Pokemon Green. That video's nuts. It's got a spreadsheet, it's got a save file. You can play around with it at home. It's all very cool stuff. With that being said, I hope you enjoyed the video, and I will see you guys later.